Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all is well. Keep up the beautiful work. Today is Wednesday. Time is flying, and you're taking advantage. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, Parashat Terumah. We know it's also the first day of Adar. Mishenichnas Adar, Marbin b'Simcha. And it's the second day of Rosh Chodesh, so do not forget, of course, Ya'aleh V'Yavo. Also, sometimes in Minha, people are in a rush, they're in work, and sometimes they come in a little later, and they might forget it, so make sure you remind the people that come in late that are standing or come in next to you. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. We are continuing the holy words of the Pele Yoetz. We are in the Hebrew book on page Resh Nun Vav 256. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. 56 is a good number. It's Nun Vav Na'aseh V'Natzliach. And in the Hebrew English Art Scroll, we are on page 267. And if the kids of today heard us say that, they would say 67 Uli Alena. We are in the letter Chet in the subject of Hosser. What is lacking? Not what is lacking in the grocery list from Instacart or Uber Eats. What is lacking in our spiritual goal in our lives. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. En lecha adam she'en bo eze choser b'midot uvdeot. Of course, all of you are perfect, but the people out there are not as perfect as you, and there's no person in the world that is perfect, because if we were perfect, we wouldn't be here, because the whole purpose why we're here is so we could be a work in progress and try to perfect as much as we can. V'chol adam kozev, it says in Tehillim that everyone is a liar. Obviously, not everyone is a liar. There are people that say the truth, especially all of you. So what does David HaMelech write? Kol Adam Kozev, and the answer is sometimes people fool themselves. They don't realize that maybe there's something that has to be fixed, because a person's mind can't see the faults in themselves, and therefore they're fooling themselves. And that's why we have spouses, and that's why we have real friends, and that's why we have rabbis, etc., so we can help each other reach the goal of why Hashem put us here in the first place. Kishem she'i efshar lebar belo teven. Could you have a pile of straw without a pile of wheat without straw? Ve'en etz belo ashan. Is it possible to have in a fireplace wood that doesn't have smoke coming out of it? Impossible. Kach en adam beli she'iteh. There is nobody that won't make mistakes. Like we said, we're humans. If Hashem wanted robots, He would have created AI robots. However, He created human beings this way. He knows we're human, and as long as we're trying our hardest. Ve'en shalem ba'olam, and there's no one perfect. The problem is there are people who think they are perfect, but thank God we don't know anyone. Rak hatzur tamim paulo ki chol derachav mishpat. The only one that is perfect is the one above. He is called our rock. Why is Hashem called our rock? Because if someone's in a roaring, rapid river and he's being washed away, and all of a sudden he sees a big, huge rock, he could go stand on the rock. Life is rough, but Hashem is our rock. Tamim Pa'olo, He is perfect in all His endeavors. As you all know, I mentioned the story way back. He should rest in peace, my dad. Alava Shalom. He called me from the hospital closer to the end of his days, and I was in the middle of school. Of course, I'm going to answer the phone when my father's in the hospital, getting closer to visiting his ancestors. And he calls me up. I said, Dad, is everything okay? I'm in the middle of class. He says, everything's great. I said, Baruch Hashem, can I call you later? He says, absolutely not. I said, but I'm in class. He says, I have a question for you. I said, could we ask it later? Absolutely not. He's the boss, especially that he was known as Pistol Packer Phil, but we won't go there for now. Long story short, I said, what's the question? He says, I want you to ask the class. I said, let me screen the question first. He says, there's one thing that Hashem cannot do. What is that thing? And I'm like, Dad, are you sketching? my whole life since I'm born, all you do is telling me Hashem is great. We used to watch National Geographic movies, watching Hashem's nature. He used to run the next morning to tell them to Rabbi Miller, and Rabbi Miller, alav shalom, used to tell him, go show it to the public. Everyone has to see that obviously there's a Hashem out there. And all he did was preach Hashem, my father. So why is he asking me and telling me that there's one thing Hashem can't do? And he tells me to ask the class, and the class is trying to give answers, and I'm sitting there sweating. Pop, what is it already? Pop, what is it already? And he tells me Hashem can never make a mistake. That's the only thing he can't do. And the answer is 100%. Hashem is the only perfect one. V'lachen en lashim la'adam shenimtza bo eze davar she'eno tov. So you have the guy out there who does think he's perfect, and he loves to look at the faults of other people. Oh, shuf, that guy, look what he does. And no one's perfect. And guess what? She'egam hu kamohu. We always say this. It's impossible to see something in somebody else that person that sees it doesn't have. As a matter of fact, it might be a much less proportion, but if somebody sees, God forbid, in Wisconsin, somebody being Mehalel Shabbat, of course it bothers us, but that means we have inside of us something that we have to work on ourselves when it comes to enhancing the Shabbat. Shegam hu kamo nimtzaim bo hesronot, ela shekol hanigaim adam ro'eh. Everybody looks at all the faults, chutz minigei atzmo, except for the faults in himself. Ve'en adam ro'eh chova la'atzmo. And no one could see their own negativities. Not only that, you have people judging the other people, but what they're lacking and their bad traits, is worse than the guy he's accusing. According to the way that a person should be. Our job in this world is to analyze what is lacking in our spiritual life, not the physical life. Of course, physical life, we have to do our part. However, you have people out there already planning winter vacation for next year. Oli, right? It is important, but Mashiach's going to come by next year. So we're all going to be in Yerushalayim Habnuya, and Trump is going to turn Gaza into a resort, so you can go to the beach over there. Be'ezrat Hashem. He's coming to Mashiach with us. Be'ezrat Hashem. Look what he does for Am Yisrael. If a person doesn't realize what faults he has, then obviously you have people around you. Usually, God forbid, not to take it in the wrong way, but that's why we have spouses, to tell us in a beautiful way. We sharpen each other, the swords sharpen each other. And also, you go to your rabbis. It's impossible to make it through life without a rabbi. Every single person has a rabbi. Sometimes you have couples starting to go out, and it starts to get serious. And as a rabbi, you ask them, who is the rabbi of your life? He has to have a rabbi, or you have to have a rabbi. He has to be the rabbi of the family. Sometimes there's things that need a little straightening out. So that's why we have Dat Torah. Now this is something we don't do nowadays in public. You don't sit there with a sign, a car wash sign, and it says, if anyone knows any faults in me, please let me know. Right? Obviously we don't do that, but we have to do it in a smart way for those who love us, and usually they'll tell us automatically in a nice way. The rule of thumb is there's nobody perfect out there except for all of you watching and learning. Kol hakavod, bravo to all of you. But we do have to know that we're a work in progress. Number one, never to judge the others. And number two, we're here to perfect ourselves. And that's why we learn Musar. And that's why we have the Pele Yoetz, to get us on our toes, and Bezrat Hashem to bring